Salvete omnes. This is Abbey Latin, Liber Primus, Chapter 2. This is a short video on syntax, Latin's nominative case. So syntax, it's a Greek word, syntaxis, meaning arrangement. It refers to the rules a language follows by which words are arranged together in order to make meaning. So what do I mean by that? Well, we look at this sentence down here. Modern English relies heavily on word order. So if I mess with the arrangement, if I mess with the syntax, if I take the words out of order to something like order heavily on word English relies modern, then I've lost meaning. No longer am able to communicate. The meaning of modern English relies heavily on word order. It doesn't mean that anymore if I take the words out of order, if I mess with the arrangement, if I change the syntax. Latin is a case-inflected language. That means it relies more heavily on endings on their nouns to tell you what job, what function, or I call them reason, what reason a noun follows. So I know that English does have some case endings, or at least it appears to. There are 4 forms of an English noun. So for instance, there's book, and then there's books, the apostrophe S. That's the possessive form, or in Latin that would be the genitive form. English beyond that does not really change endings. That's pretty much it, besides the plural. Latin makes much more use of those endings. There are far more cases in Latin than in modern English. Latin is quite a heavily case-inflected language. So Latin doesn't really so much rely on word order for its syntax. Latin relies on the case endings for their syntax. And what I mean by case ending, the endings of the first declension. I, arum, is, as, is. Those are the case endings. So those are very important. Must pay attention to those. So let's talk about the nominative case. What is the reason? What is the function or the job of the nominative case? What does the nominative case do in Latin? Well, it typically is the case of the subject. So what is a subject? Well, the definition I often get is the subject is whatever a sentence is about. And that's not entirely precise. We could actually go better. So the subject is whoever or whatever, so it's a noun, does the action of the verb. Whoever or whatever does the action of a verb. So if you take an English sentence, first find the verb, then ask yourself who or what is doing the action of the verb. That will be the subject. And in Latin, that will be in the nominative case. In English, typically the subject comes first in a sentence. That's how we know it's the subject. It comes before the verb. In Latin, we don't really care so much about word order. Word order shows emphasis. It doesn't show syntax. Syntax is shown by the case endings. So you really have to pay attention to the case endings in Latin, not so much where the words are placed. So we're focusing on the nominative case, the case of the subject, whoever or whatever does the action of the verb. So as a review, let's take a look at how to decline a Latin noun, and then we'll look at the nominative case in particular. So the dictionary entry right here, puella I, feminine girl. We have the nominative singular, the genitive singular, the gender, and the English definition. We're going to start with the nominative singular, puella, and that goes in the nominative singular blank. Then the AE pronounced I. This is very important. So this is the genitive singular ending, goes in the genitive singular blank, puellae. And then we're going to chop that AE pronounced I, genitive singular ending, off in order to get the noun stem. The stem, the unchanging part of the noun, puel, double L. And we're going to fill the rest of the blanks with this stem. Now we're going to add first declension endings because this is a first declension noun. I know it's a first declension noun because it has an AE pronounced I in its genitive singular. That tells me it's a first declension noun, therefore it must have the first declension endings of a, I, arum, is, as, is. So puella, puellae, puellae, puellam, puella, puellae, puellarum, puellis, puellas, puellis. So we're focusing a lot on the nominative case, which is the case of the subject. Puella will be a singular girl, so the girl does the verb. And then puellae, nominative plural, the girls, with the S on the end, the girls do the verb. So the subject, whatever does the action of the verb, is in the nominative case. Puella agricolam videt. So the girl sees the farmer. I know the girl is the subject. I know the girl is doing the action of the verb videt because puella has the nominative singular ending. If puella had a different ending, like if puella had an am ending, and this were puellam, and agricola had a nominative a ending, then we've changed the syntax. We've changed the meaning of the sentence to the farmer sees the girl. But we have puella, nominative, reason, subject, agricolam, that's the accusative. You'll learn that next chapter. And then videt, so the girl sees the farmer. If I were to change the word order, if I were to write agricolam puella videt, well, we've not changed the meaning of the sentence at all. We've not changed the syntax, we merely changed Latin's word order. So if we want to change the meaning of the sentence, we have to change the endings. That's how Latin shows syntax, through endings. The predicate nominative is another reason, job, or function of the nominative case. And it's pretty easy to remember that because the word nominative is in it. The predicate nominative is a noun or an adjective used with a linking verb, so is or are, to define or make a statement about the subject. So we're going to be using linking verbs. Gallia est provincia. So est, there's your verb. It's a linking verb. It acts like an equal sign. We're saying that thing X equals thing Y. So est, that's your verb. What is? What is the province? What is it? And the answer to that is the subject. Gallia. Gallia is the subject. Gallia est. So the subject, Gaul, is, and then the predicate nominative is provincia, also in the nominative case. This is giving more information about the subject, and it can be a noun or an adjective. Provincia is a noun. Optime, very well done. You are now ready to try your hand at Chapter 2's English exercise. Valete omnes.